When you're first teaching your dog to loose leash walk, how you hold the leash is going to be very important. If you walk your dog on the left, keep it looped into your right hand and keep the leash wrapped behind the back of your body so the dog can't pull out in front of you. Keep your clicker in your right hand and keep your treat bag on the left side if that's where your dog is going to walk is on the left. To teach your dog about loose leash walking, the very first thing you're going to do is condition the dog that being parallel and right next to you on the left side is a good place to be. So far, dogs have learned being in front of us when we ask for a sit or a down or any other behavior is a good spot to be, so most dogs usually don't want to be right next to us. What you'll do is you'll stand right next to a wall, so the order will be wall, dog, and then you. What you're going to do is you're going to stand there, and with the dog parallel to you, you're going to constantly feed with a very high rate of reinforcement. This means you are feeding multiple treats in a minute, not just one treat every so often. You're literally going to keep on feeding treats with your left hand with your dog on the left side. If you feed with your right hand, your dog is more likely to try and pop out in front to meet you for the treat. So meeting them with your left hand in the position you want them to be is going to be very, very important. Do not use the clicker when you're giving treats at this stage. Right now we are just conditioning the dog to learn that being in that position is a good spot to be, so we're not requiring them to do anything yet. You'll incorporate the clicker once the dog has gotten comfortable being in that position, then you'll actually click and treat for them maintaining position and choosing to be there on their own. If the dog is conditioned and the dog is ready, then you can raise your criteria where we actually will start using the clicker. Do a loop around and go next to the wall again, but not nearly as close as you were when you were just conditioning. If the dog stays in the position where they are parallel to you and within an arm's distance, click and then give them a treat. Still feed with your left hand and still maintain a very high rate of reinforcement. So even if you're not moving, you are still clicking and treating constantly for maintaining this position. If the dog sits or breaks out of position, then do a reset by doing another loop around next to the wall. If you have already clicked for being in position, but the dog gets out of position, then use the treat to manipulate the dog back into position again. So if your dog is starting to pop out in front, kind of move the tree a little bit more to the left so the dog has to follow it to get back into a parallel position again. As your dog improves and is doing better and better, you can slowly, with each circle, move further and further away from the wall. We don't want to become too dependent on the wall, but it is a nice teaching tool because it limits the amount of turning the dog can do out of position. You will notice with more and more repetitions of this, even with our reset turns, that value is still being built into the position. So the leash is constantly getting looser and looser, which is what we want. We do not want tension on the leash, and we do not want to be yanking our dog by the leash. So the fact that they are willing to now walk on a loose leash and stay in a relatively lax heel position is very good. If at any point your dog is struggling and you're doing at least 2 or 3 resets, you can always lower your criteria and get closer and closer to the wall again. If you even have to go back to just straight up conditioning and standing right next to the wall and just feeding treats, you can do that. This is a very, very difficult skill to teach dogs, and it's not something that is usually done in one quick session. At no point should you ever pop the leash, yank the dog, choke the dog, or yell at the dog for getting out of position. Just like you, they are also learning. So be patient and remember to use high rates of reinforcement and knowing your criteria for your dog as well as being consistent. If that's how you want to train your dog, by using aversives, This isn't the class for you, and you will not teach your dog as effectively.